Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Coming back to you once again with another episode of Woo Fantasy, right here, brought to you by rotoballer.com. That is right, rotoballer.com, your one-stop shop for all things fantasy. Go to rotoballer.com/radio to sign up today to get an exclusive 50% off of your premium pass for the remainder of the NFL season with promo code WOO. Take an extra 10% off at checkout. So coming in a little bit late today, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, if you follow me on Twitter, kind of what I was talking about yesterday too, kind of had my butt kicked by COVID over the last week. So I've been a little bit hit or miss. Wasn't able to come to you in live format last week. But we're here now. We're here for the next few minutes, kind of coming in a little bit late, kind of wanted to get to some start-sit questions. So if you're out there, you need some help, definitely jump in. I'm here to help you for the next little bit leading into kickoff. Of course, it's just me today, Roto Superstar, Brandon Murkison himself on Twitter, ready to jump into week 2 action for the NFL. Ready to get things going. Of course, I mean, it's been hot and heavy the last few minutes, so a lot of inactive news coming across the board. So if you haven't jumped in yet, definitely check us out there over at the YouTube channel for our podcast here, Woo Fantasy, over at YouTube. Definitely jump in, like, share, subscribe to us, help us out there, leave any kind of comments and stuff too. That would be greatly appreciated. So let's get to the questions and talk about these week 2 games. I mean, of course, the biggest news that's coming down the pike over the last few minutes is, of course, everything that's going on with that Saints game. You got Alvin Kamara out. You've got Julio Jones out now. Those are big kind of swings in that game. Of course, as if you follow me on Twitter, I've been beating the drum over the last couple of days I've downgraded Mike Evans in this game already. I think with the players that are going to be out now in this game too, that's just more of an indication that I'm just off of Mike Evans this week. Marshawn Lattimore coverage, that's the biggest thing. The guy's been a lockdown corner against Mike Evans over the last few games against the New Orleans Saints. So that's something to kind of keep in mind if you're looking at Mike Evans today, whether starting him in your season long or also in a DFS lineup, thinking you're going to kind of get a little bit of an edge because he's kind of the main target in the offense. I'm off of that. I just think that's, it's a bad game script for him. So that's something to keep in mind there. Big news too. I mean, that's the thing that we're looking at there as well too, with Alvin Kamara being out for the game today. That's something to keep in mind. Now you're going to be looking at Mark Ingram in the lineup for the New Orleans Saints. You're going to be looking at also Latavius Murray, who was signed back to the team earlier this week. Probably going to be seeing some snaps there. Tony Jones Jr. probably going to mix in some too, but it's a horrible, horrible matchup for Mark Ingram, Latavius Murray, any of the Saints running backs. Obviously, this is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It is that stout run defense that they post each and every week. So that's kind of something that I'm going to be looking at there in that matchup. I mentioned last night, prior to a lot of the news that was kind of coming down the pike, I was actually going to be starting Greg Dortch in my high stakes league over Mark Ingram in a flex spot today. That has since changed also. Because now we have the Gabe Davis news coming out, and I put that on Twitter just a little bit ago as well. As all indications are via Matthew Berry on that pregame show on Peacock, is that we're looking at now a situation where Gabe Davis is potentially going to be out for the Buffalo Bills in that matchup against the Tennessee Titans at home on Monday night. So I've had to make some adjustments there too. Pulled Gabe Davis out of my other flex position in that league. Now I have Mark Ingram starting in his place, in his stead there. So that's something to kind of look at there. Now you want to make adjustments there. Gabe Davis out of the lineup. That's going to kind of put more of an emphasis. I think Dawson Knox is going to be getting a bump in that game. A lot of routes over the middle. That's going to be something, looking at him He's definitely kind of in line to start. If you're kind of looking at that low end tight end 1, high end tight end 2, in that little tier there towards the end, I think you're definitely starting Dawson Knox there. And I think this opens up a little bit of a possibility for Isaiah McKenzie this week finally. To kind of get a bump in playing time, be on the field a little bit more. Yes, sure, he's going to split time some as far as route participation with Jamison Crowder. But I think that's something to kind of keep in mind there too. I think Isaiah McKenzie kind of pops into a little bit of a mode to where he's kind of at flex potential in that matchup on Monday night too. So got a lot of injury issues that we're looking at currently around the NFL. And so obviously, and then looking at the J.K. Dobbins situation, he practiced all week, then all of a sudden gets limited towards the end of the week. Now he's officially inactive too. So something to look at there. You got obviously going to be the same situation for what we were looking at last week. J.K. Dobbins out. You're going to be looking at Kenyon Drake taking most of the line shares of the carries in that backfield. Mike Davis coming in, Justice Hill kind of filling in a little bit on third downs. But I expect that game to be a little bit more of a low-scoring game. I mean, the over-under on that one right now, the point total is 44. That looks about right. You're probably going to be around that number, if not the under. Both teams boast a pretty good defense. That's kind of something that we're looking at there. And I think you're going to be in a situation where it's going to be hard to trust that backfield for the Baltimore Ravens there. So I'm kind of off all parties involved there. You got to hope that Lamar Jackson starts running the ball a little bit more. We didn't really see it a lot in week 1. I think that's something that they're going to need to kind of open up in that offense. So that's something to be I would definitely be playing. Obviously, it's going to be hard to count on Bateman in that matchup too, because he's likely going to be lined up against Xavier Howard in that cornerback matchup between those two. That's something that I'm gonna fade a little bit of Rashad Bateman this week because of that. We're looking at also on the other side of the ball with the Dolphins. I think you're obviously going to be starting both Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. Because of the Baltimore Ravens cornerback issues and secondary issues that they have currently, I think you can healthily, easily start both of those wide receivers and count on both of them. I think they should post, probably wide receiver 2 numbers at best in that game. That's what I'm looking at there. And then hopping over to another game with some other injury concerns too. You have the situation with the Indianapolis Colts. We had Michael Pittman get declared out for that ball game at early point yesterday afternoon in that Colts matchup. So that leaves a big gaping hole in that Colts passing attack. Now you're going to be looking at Paris Campbell expected to step up with Alec Pierce out in that game also because of the concussion issue. But then my pool is a guy that I was pointing out on Twitter yesterday, Ashton Doolin. I think you're going to see him get, he got two end zone targets last week. I expect to see him kind of get, a fair share of looks in that game today as well. And also Kylan Granson, I think you're going to see a bump up for him. 7 targets last week in week 1. I think there's a chance that he can kind of repeat that this week for some yardage and getting into the end zone as well. As far as the game plan for the Colts, obviously you're going to be looking at a heavy dose of Jonathan Taylor in that game. I have pounded him on the over at 101.5 today. Did a little bit of a single game parlay in that matchup too. I'm expecting that game to hit the under. It's at 43.5 right now. I think that game plays at the under. I think we got a little bit of a rain situation that might be sneaking into that game as well. So I got Jonathan Taylor on the over there. I've also got Travis Etienne on the over in passing yardage or receiving yardage there too at 20.5. So that's part of my parlay with that game there. So if you're kind of interested in the potential of going on the betting aspect of that game, that's what I'm looking at with that Colts and Jaguars game. looking at some of the question marks that we have here on Twitter that I'm looking at. Got Daniel Moncinito wanting to know James Robinson or Isaiah McKenzie. Half point PPR. I think based on usage last week. I know it's a tough matchup, but I think I'm slightly going to go with James Robinson here in that one. Between those two, like we were just talking about with Isaiah McKenzie, I think there's an uptick there for him. I think there's a chance to get in the end zone, but I think that the Jaguars coaching staff liked what they saw out of James Robinson last week, and I think they're going to kind of go with that. There's a little bit of a report that came out early this morning that the team's looking to kind of split some carries in that backfield this week. I'm only hoping so because I think any kind of increased usage for Travis Etienne can only help that team from an offensive standpoint. Let's see. But outside of that, kind of looking at some of the other games here coming across the slate. I know one big popular one that that they've been talking about. I know a lot of the talking heads for fantasy Twitter, and a lot of the people on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports have been talking up the Washington Detroit Lions game. It's probably going to be a sneaky high scoring game. Total on that one's 48 points. I think there's a good chance that one hits the over. Both defenses, kind of played a lot of that bend, don't break type of defense last week in week one. And both of these offenses are really, really kind of unheralded. They do have some weapons to play. Jahan Dotson with the big week last week in week one, I think is one thing to kind of look to there. Can he repeat that performance? Yeah, he didn't get the targets that we like to see there. But I think we're going to kind of see a little bit more of a back and forth type of game here between these two. I do like Terry McLaurin in today's matchup there. But then on the Lions side of the ball, obviously, there's the report that came out this morning. DeAndre Swift could be, selectively used in that ball game out of the backfield. I think they'll probably limit his touches in the running game today in that matchup, but I think you'll still see him getting heavily used in the passing game. In that one there, they want to get him in space and kind of limit that in between the tackles beating that he can take in that matchup there too. I mean, and we have to take a lot of times you have to take these limited usage reports and things like that with a grain of salt, because we saw the same thing last week heading into the kickoff for the Saints. Is that the report that came out is that we were looking at a 20 to 25 snap limited usage for Michael Thomas. He gets out there and he plays, I believe, 35 snaps, obviously gets in the end zone twice. You probably had some owners that were scared off of him, did not put him in lineups or did not put him in DFS because of the report. And then you're kicking yourself after when you see that he does get in the end zone. So I think, a lot of times we have to kind of take these with a grain of salt there. When it comes to that. But I expect to see that game to be a good high-scoring affair. The point total, like I said, 48. I think you're probably going to be right around that number, if not over. I like a lot of the props in that game, especially with the yardage props to hit the over in certain situations there. Going into another game there, you got the Carolina Panthers, you got the New York Giants. Both the top tier elite options at running back with Christian McCaffrey and now the newfound Saquon Barkley being healthy. Barkley's my number one player on the board this week. We saw the Panthers get absolutely gashed in week one on the defensive side as far as stopping the run. I think you can easily look at Saquon Barkley as a go-to player in DFS this week for sure. I've got him in every single lineup. I'm expecting another good game from Saquon Barkley. They've made it a point that they want to feature him in that offense because, let's be honest, Daniel Jones in that passing attack is not getting it done. Those receivers, they're just, you're trying out Richie James for goodness sake. So, if Richie James is in your starting lineup as one of your top two wide receivers, you're pretty much mailing it in from a wide receiver passing game standpoint. Kadarius Toney, that's a guy that everybody loves the upside. They want him on the field, but let's be honest, that guy just can't get on the field. He cannot put anything together in practice, can't stay healthy. Now he's in the coach's doghouse because of, let's say, work ethic, is a lot of the report that's out there. Yes, he's a weapon when he gets the chances, but the thing is, he's just not getting the chances on the field. So that's something to kind of keep in mind there too, as well. So yeah, expect a big game from Saquon Barkley. Looking at Christian McCaffrey there too. The reports coming out of Carolina this week is that they need to get him more involved. I definitely agree. Got another question here. Griffey Logo on Twitter. Eric needing to know Gage or Jeff Wilson in the flex, or pick up Dortch and start him. I think with the players that are getting that are injured and out for the game today, I believe I'm going to go with Russell Gage here in that spot. Yeah, Jeff Wilson, we're expecting to get most of the work in the 49ers backfield, but I expect to see that's going to be a situation to really monitor today, is how that 49ers backfield situation looks, with the expectation that Tyrion Davis-Price will be active today because of the injury to Eli Mitchell. And we'll see how Jordan Mason figures into the backfield today as well. I don't expect to see Jeffrey Wilson command the entire workload back there. If you're thinking 70% of the snap share back there in that backfield, maybe he gets that number. But I do expect to see a little bit of Tyrion Davis-Price there, and I think that's going to affect the numbers for Jeffrey Wilson today. And also, of course, too, if you've not followed on Twitter, we're looking at a lot of rain again in the forecast for a 49ers game. That's going to be a tough one there to stick. I mean, you're looking at a 39.5 point over under currently. I think that hits the over, but not by much. Let's monitor that weather closer to game time there. And getting in these questions here to everybody. And let's make sure, like I said, send your questions in, whether it be on the YouTube channel, whether it be here on Twitter, or we're live on both of them. So let's get those questions in. I'm going to be here for just a few more minutes. Didn't want to kind of hold up everybody too much today. Like I said, first time back, had COVID. Definitely has had me on my butt for the better part of the last week. That's why we didn't go live last Sunday as well. It had me hammered. I was down for the count last week. So, but we're back. We're doing the Woo Fantasy pregame show back officially this year, getting things going, getting things kicked off. Let me send this out real quick. And let's see. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the Bengals Cowboys game. Obviously, as you can see behind me, Cowboys fan. You all know if you followed me long enough. I am a big time Cowboy supporter. Not feeling great, obviously, with the Dak injury this past weekend, the Sunday night game, the fractured thumb, going to be out anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks, depending on who you talk to right now. That game later on today is just not looking like a good one for the Cowboys today. I'm likely to be benching pretty much all except for Dalton Schultz. You're probably going to be in the spot where you're going to have to play. CD Lamb based on draft positioning, but if you have other options to go with better matchups, I wouldn't blame you for putting him on the bench, because I'm expecting to see a lot of that double coverage on CD Lamb today. Probably going to leave a lot of Dalton Schultz over the middle wide open, and Cooper Rush loves to dump the ball off to Dalton Schultz. I think that's going to be the play for the Cowboys offense today, and probably a little bit of Tony Pollard too. I think you're going to expect to see Tony Pollard get included into that offense a little bit more this week. That's my expectation. Ezekiel Elliott, I mean, let's be honest. I think he's a bench player at this point in time, based on the offense, based on the offensive line injuries. Things are just not suited up well for him. But on the other side of the ball, big time Joe Mixon game today for the Bengals. I think that they're going to give him the workload again like they did in week 1 last week. I believe you saw him 9 targets in that game, 27 carries, was a big part of that offense. And Jamar Chase, I think Jamar Chase puts in a big number in that game today against the Cowboys secondary against Trayvon Diggs. Trayvon Diggs is that hit or miss cornerback. I think you're going to see Jamar Chase really just work him over today. So Jamar Chase is a big time start, especially in DFS today. So get him into your lineups too. And then the last game I'll talk about before we let everybody go for the day. Kind of, like I said, I wanted to kind of keep this short and sweet for the week. Wanted to get into that Cardinals Raiders matchup. You're looking at a really a big time start this week. For that game. That's the highest point total on the board, 51.5 between the Cardinals and the Raiders. Kyler Murray and that Cardinals offense looked a little bit iffy last week. And hey, look, it's our buddy Saban's burner. Finally didn't have a game where you were sweating it out this week, Saban. It's good to play those softies and those cupcakes on the schedule. Bateman or Gabe Davis, like we've been talking about this morning, Gabe Davis looks like he's going to be out in that game on Monday night. I'm going to play Rashad Bateman. I was just talking about it in that game breakdown a few minutes ago. I'm not expecting a lot out of Bateman today in that game. I think you're going to see Xavier Howard shadow cover Rashad Bateman, but let's be honest, between those two, Bateman's your play. He's going to be the guy that's on the field. So Saban, let's go Rashad Bateman there. Hopefully he can find a big play down the field like he did last week, getting the end zone. I'm benching Bateman in most of my leagues, but I do have better options to go with in certain situations. I mean, I'm even playing Greg Dortch over Rashad Bateman in a league today. So that's just to kind of tell you about my faith of Rashad Bateman. But you have Gabe Davis there. I'm in the same boat as you. I benched him in all 3 lineups today that I had him in. Not feeling great about it, but it's too risky to play. Going into that Monday night game, a lot of the reports saying now that it was a non-contact injury, things like that. You just don't like to hear that on a Saturday limited practice where he's going downhill instead of back uphill. You never really want to risk it on a Monday night, so that's what I would do. I would go Bateman there, but let's go back to the Cardinals Raiders game. I just mentioned Greg Dortch. I think he's going to be the popular play today. I've been one of the proponents pushing that name on Twitter the last few days. I just think the opportunities are there for Greg Dortch. I mean, the guy gets 9 targets last week in that game. Now you're looking at, for sure, Andy Isabella's out. They're going to be playing from behind on the road in Las Vegas against the Raiders. Raiders are likely going to be putting up a big number on the board and with their projected team total. So I think Cardinals are going to have to kind of keep up with that. The Raiders looking at 28.5 as far as their team point total. Cardinals are going to have to match that. And let's be honest, they did not do a good job running the ball last week. I don't think that they're going to be able to get a really good rhythm going on the ground this week as well. So I think it's all on Kyler Murray today. He's going to have to kind of show up. He's going to have to be that guy. And Marquise Brown, I mean, I expect to see Marquise Brown have a good day today as well. But let's be honest, I think you're going to see a lot of the Raiders kind of double cover him, a little bit of over-the-top coverage, and really kind of bracket in Marquise Brown. And if anything, that's going to open the middle of the field up for both Zach Ertz and Greg Dortch. And I think that's going to be the play. Man, yeah. So Saban popping back in. Yes. Yep. Live again. Finally over the COVID over the last week or so. Feeling back to myself for the first time in weeks, actually. But anyways, Robert Woods on the bench if Gabe weren't to play. I mean, if you want to risk it, that's my thing. But I have a very uneasy feeling right now with Gabe Davis, with all the news that's coming down, especially last night and then into this morning too. Like I put out this morning, watching Matthew Berry on the Peacock pregame show, he said 99% from a source, Gabe Davis will not be active in that game tomorrow night. So, I mean, at that point, I'm going with the reports. I'm kind of going reading the tea leaves there at that point in time. I'm gonna bench Gabe Davis. I'm gonna go with the better player, which is Rashad Bateman. Even in a bad matchup, gonna go with the better player and hope that he breaks one, gets in the end zone over Robert Woods. Robert Woods is just kind of that ho-hum type of guy, goes out there and puts in that yeoman's work. But I just don't see a lot of upside there. You're probably looking at a situation where Robert Wood gives you 4 for 45, 4 for 50, somewhere in that ballpark. Probably not going to be finding the end zone there. So that's what I'm looking at there. So yeah, I would still go with Bateman, even with Robert Woods as your potential pivot. I'm definitely going to go with Bateman there. So outside of that, not really seeing much else down the pike currently. Another question here. We got PF2 on Twitter's needing to know. We got a couple different questions here. We got Hunt or Henderson PPR. I think we're gonna go with man, that's tough. Hunt or Henderson. And then he's got a flex question. It would wind up being either Hunt, Henderson, or Brown. I'm assuming Marquise Brown in the flex. And I'm gonna go with Henderson and Marquise Brown, actually, out of these options. Like we were just talking about, I think Marquise Brown has a better chance of getting the end zone over Hunt, who had the 2 touchdowns last week, of course. Yeah, it's all fine and good, but I don't think we're gonna see that. Yeah, man. Yeah, it's definitely it's COVID. First time I've had it, actually, in the 2+ years that it's been running around. So it's definitely not been fun. Back to normal. My girlfriend, actually, she has been on a roller coaster with it the last few days. She's been up and down. Finally, she woke up feeling a little bit better today. So that's good news there. But yeah, it's not been fun. Like I said, that's why we weren't live last week. Wasn't able to get on, just couldn't do it. Couldn't pull the Jordan last week and get on the air. This bad as I was feeling, couldn't have a flu show. But outside of that, just mentioned, I'm going Henderson, Marquise Brown on that question for PF2. John J City wanting to know, he's got to pick 3 half-point PPR here. We've got Hunt, Zeke, AJ Dillon, Fournette. I think we're benching Zeke here in that matchup. Just not feeling Zeke whatsoever this week for the Cowboys. AJ Dillon is actually a guy I've got inside of my top 12 this week. I think he puts in a solid effort against the Bears on Sunday night. I think he gets in the end zone. I like that matchup for AJ Dillon, kind of pulling back around and having a good, and putting together 2 solid weeks in a row. He actually saw a lot more. He saw more usage than Aaron Jones in week 1. And I think that's kind of a recipe that you're going to see the Packers use throughout the season. We're going to see a lot of AJ Dillon, and Aaron Jones both kind of mixed in together with, let's be honest, Aaron Rodgers' little bit of lack of trust out of the wide receivers that he has back there. So that's kind of what I was going to touch on. We're just a few minutes away from kickoff. And hopefully, answered all the questions I could get to today. Just I got to get everybody back into the mode of being ready to go for these shows on Sunday morning. Like I said, been kind of out of the loop for a little bit. Going to try to get back into the swing of things now, and hopefully get everybody back in and ready to go with us. So enjoy your Sunday NFL Week 2 action. Hopefully, we'll try to be back this way, doing a show regularly through the week too, as far as getting a ranking show together, highlighting players, things like that. Of course, as always, go to rotoballer.com. Check out all the great articles we have there throughout the week, getting everybody set and ready. My booms and bust articles that comes out each and every Friday, with those under the radar type players that are going to be guys that I think can kind of give you the edge in your matchups. And again, also guys that I think on the boo side of things, that I think are going to be destined for a little bit of failure for the week. So go and check that out on Fridays. Download the premium package for RotoBaller. Use the promo code WOO. Get you an extra 10% discount at checkout. And of course, as always, coming back again with another episode of Woo Fantasy right here, rotoballer.com.